Hey, welcome to Rust Revival Garage. My name is Tim. I will admit that I'm not stupid, but I am dumb. Why am I dumb? Because I'm taking on a project that scares the heck out of me. I think it actually scares the heck out of a lot of people out there that work on their cars too. And I think I'm dumb because I'm going to try to do this. I'm not sure if you've seen my previous videos, but I took the Pontiac 350 out of my 68 LeMans, got it all cleaned up, cleaned out the oil pan and new gaskets, new timing chain, new water pump and all that. And I also just recently painted the engine bay. So I got it all looking nice and fresh and clean in there. And I figured, hey, while I've got this out, why don't I redo the wiring? Yeah, I actually got a painless wiring kit here, and I figured I would try to tackle the wiring. And it's just not easy to do. It's, like I said, it scares the heck out of me. But it's something that I got to do at some point in time because the wiring on here is not great. It's 56 years old, so probably going to tackle this in a couple of different videos. Maybe just do the front wiring and then the engine wiring and then maybe the back wiring and break it up into sections. And if it's something you've never done, or if it's something you've done and you can kind of help me along with this and help me out in the comments, I'd appreciate it. But it's a big project, so let's get to it. So yeah, got the engine bay all cleaned and painted up. The only thing that's not looking great is the original old wiring harnesses. And as you can see, most of this wiring is pretty ragged and original, still in the original looms. This is the front wiring that comes up. This is the engine wiring. The dash is going to be something really crazy because getting under a dash, I'm 6'4", 250. It's kind of hard to get under that dash. But then I'll also be wiring out to the back as well. Okay, so this is the kit that I purchased. It's from Painless. It is a 21-point fuse wire, whatever setup. It's universal. It's not specific to the LeMans. It is just universal for just about any car, but I believe it is based on GM fusing and wiring and things like that. So that can kind of help because this is a GM car. So let's go ahead and unbox it. And of course I get the letter that starts right out. It says, before you begin, read the manual. I think in this case I'm actually going to read the manual because it is something that is pretty daunting and I want to make sure I get it right. So I think I'm gonna go through and read it all, but this is everything that it comes with. That's kind of cool. Shows you a couple of examples of the different kinds of braids that you can get. Got a connecting kit for basically everything that you need to get these things hooked up. Looks like it has a positive cable. Good 5 or 6 feet there. That's pretty cool. Let's try not to lose everything, Tim. It's got the fuse box and all the wiring. And let's see. Looks like it's got some more accessories for the alternator. This is very cool, very complete kit. And oh my goodness, this is a book, a whole book. Wow. All right, so I've actually heard that the installation instructions from Painless are really good. Lays out everything that you need, tools even. My particular car is not a key in the column, it's a key in the dash. So I'll be doing the instructions for the keyed, or I'll be doing the instructions for the key and dash. So maybe it's not quite the entire thing, but yeah, it's pretty serious. Oh, it's scary. All right. I kind of wanted to go over all of the things that I'm going to need to do this. Of course, I've got the harness, got this kit that's got connectors in it. There's even some zip ties. This is the alternator kit. These are the terminals and basically pieces that I can use to splice. There's even extra fuses in here. This is what came with it. It also suggests having a decent crimper and wire cutters. It can basically crimp based on the size of the wire and again cut by the size of the wire. It's also good to have a voltmeter. This one is not the best, but it's the one that I've got and it should work fine for me. So I can do the ohm readings and the voltage readings. They also suggest it's a good idea to have a heat gun so you can shrink wrap these connectors whenever you are splicing anything together. That keeps it protected from the weather. Finally, one of the things I've got are some new ground straps that I used on my C10 project so that I can make sure I've got body to frame, engine to frame, and the core support. All of that basically, I want to make sure I've got good clean grounds because there was one on the firewall as well, but that one was really kind of old and crappy. So I'm going to make sure I've got good connections everywhere so that this is all working like it should. There's a couple of things that I don't have because I think this one has, since this car has quad headlights, so there's two here and two there. I do need to get an extra pigtail for the high beams, little things like that that I still may need to pick up. The other thing that I want to get is a wiring loom so that I can put the wires through and not have to do any taping. It looks a little cleaner and all of that too, but I want to get the tape as well for some shorter areas that I've got to cover. So I need to get the flexible tape. I don't want to use electrical tape, but I want to use that sort of good wrapping tape for electrical. And I want to get, again, the loom that I can be able to run everything up to the headlights and then run everything from the fuse box inside the car back in the back so that I'm getting to the taillights and everything back there. I really, really love this book. I've gotten through about the first third of it so far, and it covers a lot of stuff. I mean, basically making sure that you crimp in the correct way. You don't just overlap things where they can slide out, but you're crimping down. It's got good pictures on how to get the terminals correctly crimped so that you've got 1/4 of an inch of the copper wire is crimped, but then also some of the insulation is crimped. It even goes into detail on grounds, why you want to ground things, what to look for, how to make sure you're grounded, and why it works. But one of the cool things is as far as this fuse box goes, everything that's on this side of the box, the gauges, an electrical fan, wipers, radio, all of these fuses are only the ones that are like accessories, where they have to be on in order for this to work. Everything on this side, which is the headlights, the hazard lights, the stop lights, the horn, these are all of the things that are full power all the time. Whether or not you've got your key in, your horn will still work, your lights will still work, and that sort of thing. So it's kind of cool how it's laid out and separated here on the fuse block. Okay, I think I made it a little too simple, I think, when I was talking about the front section after reading a little bit more in the instruction manual. The front is actually broken down into 3 different sections. First is the front wiring for the lights, of course, headlights, turn signals, parking lights, all of that. Then there is the wiring section for the engine. And I think it's only about 5 to 8 wires. A wire for the coil, a wire for the oil pressure and water temp sending units, connection for the coil, and for the electric choke. Then there is the start charge wiring, and that's the wiring that's coming back in for your alternator and for your my HEI distributor. So those are the first 3 sections that I'm going to do with the rewiring of this car. And then it's the interior section, which is everything for the dash, all the gauges, everything basically underneath the dash. And then the tail section, which is the brake lights, the rear lights, the backup lights, that sort of thing. So yeah, those are the sections. And we're actually going to start from the front basically so what we're going to do is start from the front. We're going to start with the lights, the headlights, you know, the headlight over here, then work over to the headlight over here, the parking light over there, that sort of thing. And then we'll do the engine. Then I'll do the start charge wiring. Then I'll go back and jump under the dash, that sort of thing. So I just kind of wanted to cover how this series of videos is going to go. And yeah, like I said, we're going to start at the very, very, very front. One of the things that I want to avoid is just cutting out the wiring harness. It would be so easy, I think, to just go in there and snip, 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 just cut everything away and be done with it. What I'm going to try to do is keep everything intact. I'm going to try to take it all out in one piece. The reason why is because so many of these things can be really different. For example, these three, I believe, go to the wiper motor. So there's, you know, power to the motor, there's power to the washer, power to a couple of different things, and I don't believe the kit comes with that. So cutting everything out and, you know, having it all in different pieces, it's going to be hard for me to go back in and check things out, where it went, what it goes to, that sort of thing. So I'm going to, like I said, not going to try to cut anything out. The other thing that I do want to make sure I do is take some photos before I start changing and removing things. I think it's going to be a good idea to just get in there, take some shots of where everything was, because if I do have to take something out, it's going to be good for me to know where it went. And this is something too that I'm really lazy about doing. I think I'm going to try to even label some of these before I take them out. Like I said, I know that these are the wiper ones, and this went to the plugged in unit up in the firewall. And I know that, so I think I should label these wipers. And, you know, they just kind of go through, and whatever I do know, like this was a wire that I'd used to set up my distributor. And, you know, I just want to make sure I know where everything goes before I take it out, especially some of the lighting wiring too, just to make sure that I could see what was what. So when I do take it all out in one piece, I've got pictures. All right, the other thing that I know I'm going to have to do at some point is get the seat out. Like I'd mentioned, I'm pretty big, and getting under there, it's a very small space. Even with the seat out, it's not going to be fun. Some have recommended taking out the steering wheel as well, but I don't know. It's going to be terrible no matter what. So I don't know if I want to mess with the steering wheel. I'll see what I can get away with, but I'm almost definitely going to have to take the seat out in preparation to start all of this. The other thing that I'm going to probably want to do is take off the sill plate. Most internal wiring is run down from the fuse box, and it's usually under the sill plate before it goes back to the taillight section for that wiring. So I know at some point I'm going to have to do it. My biggest concern now is just not having much room in the garage for taking this seat out. So maybe I'll hold off on that until I've got at least the whole three of the front sections done before I start working in here. But I'm definitely going to have to, actually I might have to take it out just so I can get that fuse box in there. Okay, so if you're doing this along with me, if you're working on your wiring, some of the things are going to be a little bit different, and I kind of wanted to cover that because don't necessarily go just by everything that I do here. For example, some cars and a lot of trucks, you can't run that wiring through the interior like I was talking about. So you may actually have some wires that you're going to want to go through the firewall with your engine wires, with your start charge wires that are supposed to go to the front section, because you're going to have to run those down and to the back. In this car, because it is a sedan, whatever, family car, blah, 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 I will be able to take this all the way through, like I said, under the sill plate. But not everybody can do it that way. So you kind of want to keep in mind, how are you going to run your wiring to get to the back of the car? Are you going to be able to do it through the inside of the car, you're going to have to come out and then run it outside of the car down along the frame, for example. So that's something to keep in mind. Okay, another thing that I had to keep in mind is where my dimmer switch is. If you've got a dimmer switch where there's the dimmer's in the column, then you keep the wires the same for that. In my case, I need to make sure that my wires are coming down from the fuse box and going to the dimmer switch because mine is on the floor. The other thing to think about is, of course, the dome light. A lot of dome lights are actually only connected through the headlight switch, where you would turn it and just like that little extra click turns your dome light on. This one does that, but this one also has the dome light in the door jamb. A lot of the mid to late 60s cars and on, whenever you'd open your door, your dome light would come on. So I want to make sure that mine does that same thing. So I want to make sure that I'm running the wiring to the door jamb so that it's connected here. When the door opens, dome light comes on. Not so that I actually have to get in the car and turn this switch in order to get that dome light to come on. Another thing to keep in mind is where your brake switch is located. A lot of the times the brake switch is activated at the master cylinder, might be activated on the brake line. In the case of my car, it is actually up here, activated by the, I think it's what they call a hydraulic. But anyway, it's activated whenever you push in the brake light, the switch is activated, so that switch is up in here. It's not associated with the master or the brake line. So that's something you have to think about, is find out where your brake line switch or your brake switch is. Same kind of goes with your reverse switch. Is the reverse switch column mounted? Is it mounted to the floor shifter or the transmission even? A lot of the times the reverse switch is mounted through the transmission. So in that case, you may need to run the transmission or the brake light, the reverse light will need to go outside, down in through to your transmission, or you can keep it inside if you're actually able to get down through the floor shifter itself. You're able to get to the transmission from there. Another thing to consider is my neutral safety switch, which is the wiring is for that, is not going to be in the column, but it's going to be back here behind the instruments and behind the dash. And so that's going to be a little bit different. What I've got to do is run the wire to the neutral safety switch, cut that to length, and then attach it to the safety switch. The extra wire, I'm not just going to be able to use that for whatever, but what I'm going to do with that is run the extra wire, the purple wire from the neutral safety switch onto the starter solenoid. So that one's going to have to go outside with the engine wiring as well. The only thing that might be slightly different for me too is that my voltage regulator is located out here on the firewall. So I'm going to be able to run my voltage regulator wire up here to this box that's on the firewall, and I'll do that with my starter charger wiring, or the engine wiring that's coming out and over to here. If, however, your voltage regulator is going to be mounted to the core support, you're going to want to run that along with your front lighting harness that's going to be out here, because you're going to bring that all the way out to this. So that's something to keep in mind too as you're sort of planning on where your wiring is going. This is the scary part. Okay, so it was a little scary at first, but then I realized this is actually printed on here. Tail section, instrument panels, and then engine. So when I've got it all laid out, again, that starts to look a little scary, but that is my front light section. This is where I'm actually going to be starting. That will be the section that goes all up along, just like the other one did that had the tape around it. That's going to be going all the way up on the side over the inner fender to the front lights. And this is just going to be the wiring for the engine and for the start charge wiring. That's what's all going to come out through the firewall. And then this is everything that's going to be behind the dash, including my fuse box, all of the dash wiring. And then again, this is the tail section that's going to run out through the length of the car and out to the back so I can do brake lights, tail lights, all of that. So again, when you see it all in a big mess like this is where it just freaks me out. But knowing that this is all labeled, that I can just do it in sections, and it just doesn't seem quite so bad. And going to be a lot of learning along the way. Honestly, my biggest concern is cutting that first wire too short. I'm pretty sure I can figure out what goes where. I can put them all where they need to go. But cutting that first wire, I can almost guarantee you it will be too short. I think I may even make the wire just entirely too long. Yeah, see, I don't want to do that and then end up blowing and wasting terminals. So yeah, that's going to be the hard part. Sort of an introduction for me. I'm still learning. I'm not ready to start yet. I'm scared to death to do it. So yeah, let's wrap it up here. I'm going to keep reading this manual. I'm going to kind of go around and look at everything, check out this wiring, get a little bit more prep done. I still need to get those looms and get that tape and the pigtail harness for the front lights. So getting myself sort of psyched up because this is going to be fun. No, it's not. But if you can, like the video and subscribe, because I'm going to go through all of these different steps. I'm covering everything. So this is basic. If you're a wiring expert, maybe you can help me out, leave comments and let me know things. If you've never done this before and are scared to try it, I'm an idiot. I've never done this before. I am terrible at wiring. So yeah, subscribe and follow along and see if I can figure this out too. So thank you very much for tuning in. We will catch you next time. Like I said, we're going to start up with the front and work our way back. Thanks a lot.